And a very good afternoon to you. Welcome to the program. It's good afternoon, Ghana. Thank you so much for joining me here from the studios here at Kyerematen. We're coming to you live to continue discussing the issue that broke yesterday, having to do with Alan Kyerematen, who eventually stepped out of the party MPP as he had already stepped down from the flag bearership race, and he has also now declared his interest in running for president as an independent candidate. A lot of analysis have been running since yesterday till today. We're expecting the New Patriotic Party to hold a conference this afternoon. They have notified us that by 2 p.m. they're coming through. So we will be monitoring and we'll bring you the feed as and when the press conference starts. There's a release that was given to us by Justin Kodua, the General Secretary for the party. We're talking more about that, but for now, let's take a break. When we come back, I'll introduce the guests and we'll start talking about, okay, what's next with the MPP? You're welcome back to the program. It's Good Afternoon, Ghana. And unusually, as we usually on Tuesdays, we'll bring you a repeat of what happened on Tuesday. But especially today, we're just bringing you a live update because there's a running story and updates keeps coming in. So we're sitting in to analyze all that is happening. Let me first of all give you the release that it came from the New Patriotic Party right after the declaration by Alan Kyerematen to go independent. And it says resignation of Alan Kyerematen from the New Patriotic Party. The leadership of the New Patriotic Party has taken notice of the unfortunate decision of the Mr. Alan Kyerematen, a long-standing member of the to forfeit his membership and contest in an independent presidential candidature in the 2024 general elections. The party's leadership is by this medium urging the rank and file of the great party to remain calm and await the official address by the party to Mr. Kyerematen's resignation by 2 p.m. on Tuesday, September 26, 2023. The party at the party's headquarters. May God bless our homeland Ghana and make the New Patriotic Party great and strong. Signed by Justin Kodua Frimpong, who's the General Secretary. We're standing by for that feed. But in the meantime, let's start analyzing what has been happening from yesterday. Dr. Kobe Mensah, now professor actually, is joining us from outside the country. He is a political marketing strategist and a lecturer as well. Prof, thank you for your time. You're welcome to Good Afternoon, Ghana.
Annie, thank you for having me. It's always great to see you.
Great to see you too, Prof. Thank you so much for your time. So, firstly, since you were not in the country, but I'm sure you must have heard, let me take your opening remarks or comments on the updates with the MPP now.
Well, like everybody else, I've been following, the development. Clearly, it's something that has been coming. When they contest, they completed the super delegate elections. Alan actually made us understand that he will brief the country his way forward with regards to his political life. He was going to consult his team, his family, and at the appropriate time, he will let us know. And so we were all eagerly waiting for a certain announcement. I should say that I had sort of entertained a possible departure from the MPP. As to what form it was going to take, I didn't know that he was going to actually go independent or to form a political party. But I did entertain a certain posture. Why? Because he had highlighted quite a number of issues that he was not excited about. And so I was expecting certain departure from the MPP.
Maybe before we get into if that's a good strategy, he had they went into the super delegates, and maybe I would say during the super delegates, 90% of the candidates were not in conformity with the party's decision to run a national contest instead of what they wanted, as in a place for convergence, And also, after the composition, there were attacks. Alan raised concerns. I'm sure he was expecting that the party should have done something about it, which that didn't happen. Do you think that all those factors could have led to this decision? And even with his stay in the party as a minister, which of course we've picked information how his ministry was also inundated with a number of deputies that possibly took most of the responsibilities away from him.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of people do not see the ins and outs of political play. They take for granted what political parties say in terms of structures. They say the nuances of politics actually go far beyond what the political actors say with their words. There are quite a lot of actions that speak louder than the words that they give out. Now, prior to even the competition, in fact, the national, elections with regards to the party executives, party leaders, constituency chairman, national, regional chairman, polling station agents, those positions. If you remember, there were quite a lot of concerns by the Allen team. At some point, they even organized a press conference to outline some of the things that they see as unfair practices on the part of the political party. Fast forward, they had been to a meeting to discuss the character of the flag bearership competition. As you said, 90% had disagreed with the party about the model, and they have called for a certain congregation. The party ignored it and said that they were going to do center by center, which I think, in the wisdom of the nine, actually led itself to or lent itself to a possible manipulation. The party ignored that. Fast forward, they had gone to contest with the mind of selecting just five. Of course, it's safe to say that you would think that they would give out those five in a manner that does not actually, prejudice the November, what do you call contest. Yet they come out to give a hierarchical number to say a person is first, B person is second, C person is this, in order to suggest to the party's root that perhaps a certain candidate is preferred by the leadership of the party. All those things culminate into his displeasure and outlining the numerous stuff that he thought that were not geared to provide a very clear playing field. I mean, and so he outlined those things, and as a result, left. Not to talk about the intimidation, etc., that he has actually highlighted.
Now let's move to the state where criticisms have come in. People analyzing the decision. We'll come to his strategy. Today, I heard quite a number of politicians who were making references to BJ Darocha's comments after Alan Kyerematen showed signs of being unhappy in the party, got to a point where he stepped out in 2008 and also came back with BJ advising the party that, listen, you guys should not accept this man because he's going to create a lot of problems for you. Does he stand vindicated? And today, persons who think that this was a bad decision for Alan, having built his political career on the hinges of this political party, NPP, do they all stand vindicated?
I disagree. I think that people have objectives, they have goals, personal ambitions, and those things are actually guided by principles. Obviously, DJ Darocha's objectives are quite different from Alan's objectives, and the role he played would not allow him to say anything different. Remember, I think he was is that party chair, or yeah, I think a party chair or general secretary, one of them. And so that particular role enjoins him to actually sort of toe a different line, different from Alan's objective and Alan's goals. As a result, Alan's principles. If you take political leaders, people who have ambition to become, candidates or presidents or prime ministers, completely different kind of objective, completely different kind of ambition, and of course, principles from those who actually become executives of a political party. In this case, Darocha had a mandate to send a certain signal that he can put together a certain party, in order for the boat not to be rattled. Now, Alan, on the other hand, is seeking to lead some group of people in order that he can serve a country. They have different objectives.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that, him saying that Alan could be disruptive actually means that Alan is disruptive. And having actually taken the decision that he's taken means that he's disruptive. You can see it from a position of principle. People would want to say that based on the principle, I am not wanting to be part of this particular operations. And he cited quite a number of things, including the intimidation of his people, the unfairness of the political structure. If he use those bases and as a result take a certain decision, whereas you can actually consider it as a disruptive because of your role that you play, because of your objective. But for those who actually share a certain vision and a certain objective with Alan, wouldn't see it as a disruptive, position. So I think that it depends on which role an individual is playing, which interest an individual is having to describe what Alan did as disruptive or not.
So maybe I'll tap into your expertise as a political marketing strategist. What are the pros and cons of the behavior of the Alan political personality, where I've resigned, I've come back, I've resigned again, I'm gone independent, and he's been around for decades. We're describing his decision now as the end of an era, obviously. So, what are the pros and cons of this? Because I'm sure that he somehow may have benefited from this approach of blowing hot and cold.
Let not forget that it's just only two instances. All right, it's not as if it has happened on a countless occasion. The first instance when it happened, 2007, is it? Between 2007 2008?
2008, yes.
Yeah. Uh, um, about, is it 15 years? Thereabout?
Yeah.
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 It's been quite a period.
Mm-hmm.
Now, remember, you could say that when he resigned or perceived resignation, which he claims he didn't resign, in fact, there is a document that actually says that Darocha had actually changed his perception or his position on Alan, having said that he didn't know the full facts of the issue, when he penned down the first, kind of comment. And so to speak, he took back his words.
Oh,
That document is in the public domain, and I think you probably want to have that so that when you cite this one, you can equally cite that one. Now, I think that we should look at the context here. He was a young person. He had a certain ambition. He was not happy with the instances that the party took. Now, fast forward, he came into the party and he's done it again. Now, at this moment, you would appreciate his political career. He's now no longer a young person. He is at least in the twilight of his ages in terms of how old he is. And so I do not actually think that it was a wrong way to do it because he has a certain ambition. If you have a certain ambition, you want to fulfill it before your time runs out. If he had done it on a 4 or 5 occasions, you would say that that was flip-flopping. But having done that as a young person on the principle that people were persecuting your people, and then having done that at the twilight side of his political career, again citing a certain, untoward behavior towards your people, I don't see it as flip flopping. I think it's much more a principle, and the fact that he acknowledges that perhaps this is the moment aside that, or outside this moment, there's no other opportunity again. I don't see it as flip-flopping. I think that as rational human beings, we will take decisions that seems to actually go in line with our objectives, in line with our ambition. Otherwise, then you're not a leader. Leaders actually take serious, ambitious, sometimes unreasonable steps to fulfill their objectives. So for me, I think it's a principled position rather than a flip-flopper.
Is this principle anything to go by? Do you see some consistency in what you're describing as a principle?
Yeah, he's been consistent. He cited irregularities. He said that he was not going to endorse certain processes that would not inure to the benefit of the party. And he had cited arguably very evidential instances where it falls in line with what he's saying. I feel that the gentleman perhaps had not been listened to by people. People perhaps had been too quick to kind of judge or define what he's saying without paying attention to the underlying causes. Why are people not calling the party structures, to book and then asking them to indeed look into what he's really saying? If you look at the other side of the coin, i.e., what Alan is saying, how many people can say that the party had taken constructive steps to address what Alan has said? Nobody's actually saying that. But a lot more people are actually talking about his measures that he's taken. It is very easy for you to think that you understand political practices and behaviors by just observing it. Look, there are quite a lot of detailed critical stuff within political behaviors that if you do not have what it takes, you wouldn't understand the nuances of it and be able to judge exactly what someone is saying or someone is trying to do. There are quite a lot of irregularities in our political parties. Political parties aren't sanitizing the system and making the system attractive for people to actually go along with it. And nobody seems to be talking about it. Rather, they actually happen on a certain resignation that perhaps Alan has actually put across. And that is not to say that I'm defending it because I'm not his spokesperson, but I feel that people aren't taking their time to critically examine the issue and to really pass on a judgment that is fitting for both parties, maybe.
Do hold on there. I have Jonathan Asante-Ochiri, who is also at the University of Cape Coast political analyst. Jonathan, thank you so much for your time. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Great, thank you for your time. I know you've been very, very busy, around these times. But, Prof has said something now that political parties, keep dwindling the bright future of what a political party should actually appear to be. Maybe you can give me your opening remarks on Alan's situation, and then you can dovetail it into if they are making this independent nature now attractive with Alan and his personality and the decision he has taken.
Well, I don't even know where to start from, if you asked me. I think it is quite unfortunate for the MPP that Alan is going his own way. And I know they are also holding a presser to respond to some of the things that he said. If you asked me on 26th of August, after the Superdelegate Conference, and I was on Adom TV, I said that if I were Alan, I would resign from the race. And lo and behold, he did that.
So, not to cut you, so I want to believe that all you analysts foresaw this happening, because Prof has also said almost the same thing, that he was expecting.
I said that he should resign from the race. But to resign from the party will have to be a consequence of resigning from the race.
From the race.
Yes, because if you resign from the race or you have withdrawn from the race, then consequently, what is your locus within the party now? You are not going to be ahead of Dr. Baumia. You're not going to become a minister. So I think that we had just two main options. Either he went his way, as he's rightly done, or you sit right on the fence and wait for what will happen. Because if I were his political advisor, based upon all the reports that had come within the public domain, in terms of the surveys, as far as the NPP, the NDC, their chances within the 2024 elections are concerned, I would have sat on the fence. I wouldn't support anyone. I will not go and form my party. Let them go. Once they go, and you're looking at the surveys that have come, it means that the NPP is likely to lose. And once they have lost out, the grassroots will come looking for you, asking for you, because now there will be a tsunami at the top in terms of internal elections, and they will clear all of them. But he didn't go that way, and he went by the path that I had suggested earlier on 26th of August. And then subsequently he's come out to resign from the party entirely. And once he's done so, of course, he must prosecute his own agenda. And that is why he has consequently said that he's going independent. And that is it.
So it means that his independent declaration will make nonsense of what you predicted could happen after he stepped out of the race, right?
No, it reinforces that, because once you have withdrawn from the race, what then do you do? You cannot go back.
Okay.
You either stand by and watch them go and lose, or they go and win. In whichever case, it has consequences. If they go and win, then obviously what you planned did not materialize. If they go and lose, they will come for you and make you the king. So having resigned from the race, consequently, you will have to withdraw and then go his separate ways. That is a mark of a leader. He's ready to bear the consequences. And he's pondered over it, and having listened to Justin, is it JFK or something like that?
Yes. Justin Kodia.
Briefly, yes. I mean, they could realize that the man has sat down, planned it, and it was premeditated, because he did not even communicate his intended resignation from the party to the party leadership.
Is that how it's done? I mean, if I intend to resign from a party, should I communicate to the leadership?
If you try to do so, people will impress upon you to stop. And then they will send, people that you are shy of, people you respect, to impress upon you not to go on that tangent. So you just have to gather around you those who believe in you and share your vision, and you take that decision. But of course, maybe on the ninth hour, he could easily have informed the party leadership of that, and then he would just go ahead and do it.
So was this good for not telling the party leadership as we suspect? Was it a good thing? So he can take his own independent decision?
Yes, he did not want anyone to impress upon him not to go ahead with whatever he had decided. Because, you see, the man has given us a plethora of reasons, which for me, seeks to reinforce a kind of injustice meted out to him. Now, let's look at the history of the NPP, for example. Professor Dubois he's a contestant. Then President Kufuor comes in, he tries to usurp his way, and then he's told that his time is not due. When it got to President Kufuor, President Akufo-Addo intends to do a similar thing. Though he went ahead, he's told that his time is not due, should be this time. Then it gets to President Akufo-Addo's time. Then President Kufuor, through the establishment, brings Alan to usurp. Then President Akufo-Addo complains about that. That inured to his benefit. He got sympathy vote and he did not win outright. Now, as he did not win outright, Alan says that, well, you are a senior colleague, and as a conservative party, you need to bid your time. So you go ahead. I'm not going to contest you. Go ahead and be the presidential candidate. Then President Akufo-Addo, then candidate, says that when your time is due, I will equally support you. So why didn't he do it now? Why didn't he do it now? And he tells us that he's not supporting anyone. Why must you not support anyone publicly? Yes, you may decide not to support anyone publicly, but you put in the machinery to ensure that the person wins. We know how these things are done behind the scenes. Who doesn't know that Dr. Bawumia is an establishment candidate? It is because, and if you look at the 4 reasons the man gave, the party has been hijacked by some leaders and elders of the party. It has been hijacked by who? The members of government. The party has been hijacked by who? What is it called? Behind the scenes power brokers. It has been hijacked by what? Unscrupulous or miscreant, as I may put it, in party apparatchiks. So you could see that everything is stage managed in favor of a particular aspirant, which he refuses to mention any name anyway. And who doesn't know?
Jonathan,
Who fits that
Jonathan, what are the specifics you're seeing in the current composition that makes you believe that someone is favored or the establishment is favoring this particular candidate? What are the signs that you're seeing? Let's not forget that Dr. Bawumia is a vice president.
Yeah. Oh, certainly. Don't also forget that Aliyu Muhammad was also a vice president. If he had the support of President Kufuor, then I don't think he would have come third. Now, one other reason you need to bear in mind, you see, when you have a political machinery behind a particular candidate, they put everything at that person's disposal. Now, you see that they were concerned about harassment and intimidation because with members of government leading the fray for a particular candidate, all coming out this, coming out here, coming out there, what do you expect? People will feel that, hey, if I should come out in support of this person, I must be worth my salt. Other than that, I'll create a problem for myself. So there are others who just, quarrel within themselves. But the other thing too you need to bear in mind, how does it happen that 10 contestants are going for 5 slots? 9 of them come out to say that, look, looking at the situation, it will be better to centralize it. The other candidate does not even utter a word, either in support.
No. Fairly, he said he was comfortable whatever decision the party takes or
but
whatever decision the party took.
The Council of Elders, they were conducting the elections for who? For the 10. So if 9 of them suggest that it is proper to go in this direction,
you have to listen.
Why would you say that it should be decentralized? Whom are you conducting the elections for? Because you see, when you do that, you are going to let individual contestants incur more cost. They will need to get more what you call polling agents. They will need to have resources to spread around. And of course, the one who has all this kind of support at his disposal is the one who is privileged to have that advantage. So it is very strange if a democracy is about majority rule and 9 out of 10 suggest this and you say, no, we are going it this way, then whom are you doing it for? What advantage are you creating for? Why would it happen that 9 will be disadvantaged and 1 will not utter a word? You understand? And so, you see, we don't have to play the ostrich. We just don't have to play the... But, of course, there are superior motivations for the establishment to support Bawumia instead of Allah. And I think I have already put those communications in the public domain. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
So I'm asking, if you take, for example, what happened where 9 contestants were saying that let's decentralize the elections and it was not listened to. Is this something...
They were saying they should centralize it.
They should centralize it. Is it something that is so bad that, yes, they were saying that they should centralize. Bawumia said he was okay with anything the party, decides to do. But was it that bad that, must get someone so unhappy and discontent to the extent or to the point that you resign, or it's just a compound of a lot of issues?
Certainly, it's a compound of a lot of issues. As Thucydides in ancient, the writer of the Peloponnesian War will tell you, in any event, we have the remote cause and the immediate cause. Now, the remote cause is the fact that, look, everything had been stage managed to favor a particular aspirant, no two ways about that. And that is why some of us got surprised that Alan stayed in the government for too long. He stayed in that government for too long, only to realize that the bridges that had been built for Dr. Bawumia as the establishment candidate were difficult to break down, because he needed to do so. He needed to get time to break those bridges down and build his. That would have, gotten the the grassroots onto his side. But of course, he should also blame himself, and for not being calculable enough, as it were. In terms of politics, you need to know the timing. Timing is of the essence. If you don't get your timing right, you take certain decisions that will not inure to your advantage. And so, for me, these are some of the reasons, and having outlined them as to whether these reasons should warrant him to resign from the party and go his separate way, I think he is the better person to answer that.
So I was having some discussion with a member of the MPP yesterday, and the person cited, for example, Kwabena Japan, who obviously, by his comments, by his launch of campaign and all that he's been saying, is very peeved with a lot of the things with the party, but had not gotten to the point where he says, I want to resign. But my point of argument to this person was that, listen, you consider Kwabena Japan, you consider Alan. The two of them are at two different ages. Kwabena Japan obviously have potentials, and Alan, or by age is favoring him, Alan doesn't have anything to hold on to now. If we even give him the next 10 years, when are you expecting him, when the NDC is also struggling to come back to power? So age is not on his side. So it probably is the best decision for him if he's going independent, because that is possibly the last chance he's trying his possible best to also lead the party. Is that a politically sound argument?
Well, they all have their motivations, and they all have different ambitions altogether. Yes, all of them wanted to lead the party, but does Kwabena Japan have the same clout as that of Alan? I don't think so. Kwabena Japan, a fine gentleman for that matter. His views are accurate. I mean, you could see that when the guy speaks, I was among those who advocated that the MPP, gave him the mandate to be the general secretary, and of which they did. And so it was quite unfortunate that his political career had to hit such a snag. But he's been able to resurrect and come back. He doesn't have the same clout as Alan, not at all. Even the first five, unfortunately, he couldn't come in as having been a former general secretary before. He was among those that I felt could also be among the first five. But you see, he was against the establishment. And once he was against the establishment, there was no way, he was going to get within the same ranks. You could also see that Honorable Chairman Tejaku was also against the establishment. And that also explains why he found it difficult entering the first five. Of course, Adenimu was that type of neutral kind of person. He says they should give him the opportunity, but he did not ruffle feathers. So Alan cannot in any way be compared in the same league as that of Kwabena Japan. Two fine gentlemen, no two ways about that. But you see, Alan has been very much close to the crown than Kwabena Japan. And so, if after all these years, he feels that his contribution is not valued, then it means that you cannot be part of the whole. Aristotle tells us that the wholeness of a plot is that when you take an element out, it should affect its wholeness. But if your presence or your absence does not add or make any significant difference, then you're not part of the whole. And so he feels alienated. And that's the more reason why he's taking that decision. And that he has the ambition of becoming president of this republic. And so with the ambitions not crossing, but going their parallel ways, that is the more reason why he's taking that decision.
But he is the one who is also telling us the achievement or his achievements of being part of this government, where one district, one factory, trade policies, he had championed it and they are successful. So he cannot necessarily say that his contribution has not been recognized.
Well, for him, it should be crowned with a presidential candidature of the MPP. That is where he's not got into. Therefore, he's not valued.
Wow.
And the age factor too is of prominence. My question has been, why have they jumped Dr. Bawumia ahead of him? Because for me, it surprises me that a party, Dr. Bawumia, for example, is a personality that if he goes to the campaign free, whatever he says that is new today, he might have said it and the record is there. So they will play the record. And today with the technology, they put everything together. You said this year, you said that the previous year, you said this, you said that. So what happens to you? Credibility crisis. So there must be a superior reason for the party, the establishment to go beyond Dr. Bawumia. Because I have said, the only problem he's going to face is that they don't trust him. Ghanaians will not trust him. And they will never believe whatever he says. Even if he promises Ghanaians heaven, they will know, or they will come to the conclusion that this is not Jesus' heaven that Dr. Bawumia is giving us. It may be a different thing. And he will come and rationalize that kind of heaven.
But the data,
untrustworthiness.
But the data doesn't support it. We saw the data after the special delegates conference, and it doesn't look like Ghanaians don't trust him. They still trust him. Those who voted him, even though they're MPP, they're Ghanaians first.
Yeah, of course, certainly. But these are delegates. And with the delegate system, we know that it is always, or usually, you must have resources at your disposal. And if you listen to Kennedy Japan, the sums that they keep mentioning, I mean, it's mind-boggling. You see, it is mind-boggling. If you don't have those kinds of resources, you cannot match them up. So don't forget that from the Global Info Analytics, for example, the survey indicated that Dr. Bawumia is popular within the party. But when it comes outside the party, Alan was much popular than Dr. Bawumia. So within the party, because he has the solid backing of these people, and ask yourself, if President Kufuor had supported Aliu, would he have counted? No, he wouldn't. So who is Dr. Bawumia without the backing of the president and the other powerful members within the government? Who is he? He would not have any locus. And we cannot run away from that fact. Without those groups of people who are controlling the resources of the government, the party, and the leadership in its entirety, without them, Dr. Bawumia is empty.
Do hold on. Let me cross over to Prof. Prof, are you still there?
I'm still here.
All right. So I'm sure you've heard the points being made by your colleague there in politics. But if Alan was made a promise, maybe by Nanado, and by the changes of times, things obviously seem to have turned the way it has turned. And we all suspect that with the optics that we're seeing, Dr. Bawumia is an establishment candidate. Is it a big deal? I mean, maybe Alan just took a very big risk by letting go and supporting Nanado at the time. But this is politics. Anything can change at any time, right?
No, I think Dr. Achuri actually highlighted quite some important points when it comes to political behavior. And I side with him 100%. Now, I'll give you a typical example. I think in 2009, if I'm not mistaken, there was a huge grudge between, Tony Blair and Gordon Brown's camp at number 10 and, number 11. Gordon Brown, obviously being the exchequer, the finance minister, you would say, Tony Blair being the prime minister. These two had gone into a pact before Tony Blair's emergence, that he would go and after Gordon Brown would come. In fact, at that time, it was Gordon Brown that was supposed to be the leader of the Labour Party. Tony Blair, by the time, was very rocky style. People thought that the country needed a certain style in leadership. And so Tony Blair was suitable at the time. But of course, the pact was after him, Gordon Brown should come. Now, when Tony Blair attempted to stay, and he had actually stayed more than the agreed period, and he attempted to stay 4 more, or, UK, they don't have a particular time period, but usually 4 and 5 years. There was a huge discontent within the two camps. In fact, there is rumor that even the wife, Cheryl Blair, had a confrontation with Gordon Brown because Gordon Brown and his team started limiting information to Tony Blair in terms of the economic information. Look, when politicians, consummate political leaders, are having ambitions to lead, you have no idea what could actually come in between them. Then you're not a politician if you do not take an issue with what Nanado did. And it's not on Nanado's promise. It is a norm. If you ask any true and true MPP person, they will tell you that as for MPP, there is a certain trajectory who comes next. That is not in NDC. NDC, you can emerge anytime and become their leader. MPP hasn't got that. There is a trajectory. I am sure you have even heard that in MPP. I don't know how far it's true because I'm not a member, but there is a saying, a rumor that people would ask you, who is your grandfather? Who is your grandmother? Who is your... You've heard it.
And the, and the Edrum is so tradition.
Exactly. There's a certain tradition in MPP that almost every rank and file of the party knows. Yesterday, I was listening to some of the comments. Some guy actually said, I am the son of Alhaji so and so.
Right.
Why is Baumia saying that it is Dombo's time? If that is not the tradition, if that is not the supposed norm, why is he saying that is now the turn of Dombo? It means that in MPP there's a certain psyche that hierarchically people go and come, and once you build your time and it's your time, you're supposed to be accorded that particular respect. Why should it change? But of course, be it as it may, the issue is that Alan Kyerematen, when you look at it, when you analyze it and throw in so many variables, there are quite a lot of consideration. Now, the idea that, of course, as Jonathan was actually saying, that he could even bid his, let them go lose the election and then they would cry for him. What shows that the kind of institutional structure that had been put in place to prevent him from becoming the leader now would not be repeated to actually sort of prevent him from becoming a leader, even after 4 years. And the idea that he's not young, look, it is very visible that he's at the twilight of his political career, of course. These days, there's a huge sentiment towards older political candidates because of what we have seen. We have seen the president, and to be very blunt and frank, sleeping at very important, functions, UN, call it whatever. So the appetite to have a very aged candidate, it's waning. And so I am sure that his team put all this together and said, look here, we are in for lose-lose situation if we don't take the bull by the horn now, because he could perhaps give them the benefit of the doubt and say, okay, let them go. I will come in after 4 years. They will put up structures to perhaps prevent him from becoming it. What has he gained? But if he's really solidly convinced in his mind that he has a certain stellar leadership qualities that would benefit this country, I don't think that he's taking the wrong decision. He can go and try. If he wins, if he doesn't, he has fulfilled his political ambition of being on the national ticket. He hadn't been on the national ticket before. He had always been, what you call contesting as a flag bearership. Now he has opportunity to be on the national ticket for people to be convinced or not that he can be their leader. He should go for it. I don't think that he's made a mistake.
Let me wrap up with you. How will this affect the party? From yesterday, the party has communicated trying to keep the rank and file together and letting them understand that it's not a big deal. Is it a political talk or it's actually not a big deal?
And I will not be surprised that they have been frantically trying to dissuade him from this. Of course, in the public domain, they would say that it's not a big deal. They would say that let him go, they can survive it. But I know that at the back end, they had been frantically trying to dissuade him. Why would they dissuade him? Because they know that it's going to hit them hard. And as Jonathan actually said about Aristotle's, certainly you'd know that he's a part of them. He has a certain base. He had contested on a number of occasions, and so had built up a certain structure, a certain constituency. Some may depart because, as I always say, there are so many avenues that people come into political, umbrella through the candidate, through policy, through ideology, etc. So those who are very strong about the MPP and its traditions, perhaps supporting Alan Kyerematen, might think that if he's gone, then let me also depart. Mind you, not all of them would have that trajectory. Some believe in him as a person, as leadership, so they will follow him. For those who are actually contesting MPs or have MP, ambitions, and they actually, saying that they now want to go their separate ways, mind you, that is not really the reason why. It's a strategy.
Right.
If they don't depart, they cannot be on the party's ticket to fulfill their own ambitions. It does not mean that they don't believe in his leadership. So there are so many reasons why this could be, hurting the MPP. And for me, I know that it would definitely hurt them in terms of the voter share. It would seriously affect their possibility if they ever thought it was going to be. This one has really nailed it, that they're never going to be on that breaking the eight agenda. Never.
Prof. Kobi-Mensah, I'm grateful for your time. I'll leave you here. Let me also attend to Jonathan Asante and wrap up with him. Thank you so much for coming through there. Jonathan Asante, please, are you there? Hello, Mr. Asante.
Yeah.
Right. So let me wrap up with you. Prof was also saying that it's actually going to affect the MPP as a political party. Do you share with what he's saying?
Yeah, certainly. You may delude yourself into thinking that it's not going to have any effect because the man has clout within the MPP. But of course, we have different levels
I was thinking,
of
yes, everybody says he has clout. Yeah, everybody knows that Alan has a personality. That is maybe because he's been around for quite some time. And so he has that political respect. We accord him that as a statesman. But we saw in the votes that within the party, he doesn't really command as much. Or is it just us thinking?
If you relied on the special delegate conference vote to analyze his weight within the party, that one you will get it wrong, because we know that political machinery will always favor whoever becomes the establishment candidate now and in the near future. That is why I feel that they should amend that and scrap that. If they had decided that all of the 10, you are going to conduct the elections for them, it would have been simple. Alan would have lost, and that would have been simple. You wouldn't have known what is on the minds of people. I have said that that particular article that has been inserted is to cure a mischief, but it has created more mischief for the party. Now, with respect to the question you asked me, yes, I'm saying that definitely it is going to have an effect, a big time effect. Already, yes, even when he had not come out, we know that the surveys out there are not good for the MPP. So he is rather making it worse. Now, we have three levels of support base. We have those who are MPP, no matter the direction of the current leadership. And that's the more reason why some of them have come out to say that, well, we are MPP first before this second. So they will have to be there. Those are the people you cannot change their mind. Two, the second level is that the liberals, we have the liberals who are very much educated. They are within the middle class, a little above the middle class, a little below the middle class. Those are the cluster of people that only look at the current leadership and they feel alienated by the fact that the leadership provided by the current leadership is very bad, and they may easily align themselves with Alan. Alan himself, for me, if you ask me, I see him as a liberal leader. Then the final one is the neutrals, the non-aligned, the youth who are undecided. And if you listen to what he said, it means that if he's relying on that percentage, then he will prosecute a kind of agenda that will take such a huge number from the party. He can equally be looking at the Ashanti region, which is his homestead, all the Bono regions, the Bono, the Ahafo, and the Bono East, some part of the Western North, some part of the Central region. If he can focus on these areas, the others will come out as outliers. But if he can focus on these areas, and I think that when he becomes a little more attractive, he can easily attract the minority parties onto his side. After all, we know that they have been in the race, only God knows, and yet they've not been able to come out with even a percentage, a certain percentage. So it is much ado about nothing. Once they see him with that kind of clout and able to command, and people follow him here and there, that in itself will bring a lot of trouble to the MPP.
Perhaps one thing, right? Perhaps one thing that last question. Perhaps one thing that we have not considered is his candidature as an independent candidate going to affect the NDC? Since we've seen making reference to the Global Info Analytics, polls that it conducted, and knowing that Alan is more popular outside the party, how is it going to affect the NDC and its votes?
It will affect the NDC, especially when he has made a call onto the disgruntled members of the NDC. So if you don't see yourself as a member now of the NDC because you are disgruntled, you can easily join that particular bandwagon of Mr. Allen. Of course, his homestead is the MPP. So that is where the effect will be felt more greater than any other part.
Jonathan Asante Ochre. Can we hear him? Can he just conclude and so we can? He's out. Okay. 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 Let's wrap up now. Jonathan Asante Ochre is actually at the University of Cape Coast and a political analyst as well. Earlier on, we had a discussion with Dr. Kobe Mensah, strategist and also a lecturer. He's actually now a professor. All right, Professor Kobe Mensah. My name is Anya Fampofo. We'll get to MPP to bring you the details of what is being said at the party. The press conference has started already, but the chairman is here to speak, so we'll bring you the details as well. For now, we'll draw the curtains here. Good afternoon, guys.